So you want to be a dungeon master?
So, you want to be a dungeon master.
So you want to be a DM?
Name some feats, okay? Feats.
So you want to be a DM?
That's great. We're here to help. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Justin. This week, we're going over magical curses and diseases. Throughout D&D and the fantasy genre, there have been magical afflictions. In Game of Thrones, Jorah Mormont catches Greyscale, but luckily is one of the very few survivors. In Lord of the Rings, Frodo is poisoned by Shelob's fangs, and it's why Sam thought he was dead. So get out your stethoscopes, open that copy of Grey's Anatomy, and let's get into it. But first, always got to be a but first. Taylor, how do you feel about lycanthropy in your D&D games as a DM and as a player? Has it come up? I guess is maybe the first question.
It really hasn't come up a whole lot in my games as far as games that I've run, mainly because it's a odd mechanic. It's tough to work in. And especially with my table, I already had so much going on. Like adding another layer of something would have been a nightmare.
Just add a quick lunar cycle in, dude. Lol,
yeah,
get good.
right. I've already got a storm cycle. I've got all these other things, like all these weird subclass abilities. It was a lot. But lycanthropy, I think it can be a fun story element. I am a fan of as far as monsters go, the Loop Guru, and that is like the king werewolf, and I think something along those lines, like having it be an NPC encounter as opposed to it would always be a present danger for the party. But having a werewolf plot didn't really fall into my games, so I can see the story there, but I've never done it.
Yeah, for sure. I think the most I've ever done is having a couple of like henchmen here and there have lycanthropy and just here's a were shark, here's a were bear, whatever it may be.
Right.
And so there's always the fear of like, of course, if they hit that bite attack, then you have to make a Constitution saving throw, and we all know what's going to happen if you fail, and then we have to figure it out. But then, and we're going to get into greater detail about this, but D&D has remove curse, a 3rd level spell. Clerics can just prepare that any day. There's things about it that kind of, I think, lessen its severity depending on how you run it at your table. Because like you said, it is an interesting mechanic because it's a little loosey-goosey how it all would work when it comes to a player character getting lycanthropy. There isn't like a set rules for that. It's just kind of, there's like suggestions and like little guidelines, but it's very interesting. I do think as a player, I've never had actually, no, that's not true. In Strahd, there were, I think, were creatures at a certain point, maybe, right? Yeah. There's like were ravens, I think, in Barovia. I can't remember, but there's were something. Yeah. But like, I think that was a moment where it's hard for me not to think as Justin in those moments, because Justin is like, dude, let my character do, like, yes, please let my character get lycanthropy of some cool kind. I think that's dope as hell. I want that to happen. I think it's amazing. I remember it happening to our friend Megan, though, in a Tomb of Annihilation game. And she was like very beholden to the first early stages where she was like stuck. And of course, it was a were-boar, the worst one. But she turned into just a straight boar and was like, couldn't get out of it. It was just like running around crazy. And it was like, that would suck, like losing your character for those moments.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like when you think of werewolves, what is there like a piece of media that you think of? like to as your reference
Um,
point of quote unquote what werewolves
yeah.
are like, other
So
than
it's
D&D and stuff?
really funny, but there is a book by Jim Butcher called Full Moon.
Sure.
It is the second book in the Dresden Files series.
Okay.
Um, and it actually covers the whole gamut of potential werewolf or werewolf-like abilities. Like they have the straight up, it's a full moon, everybody wolfs out. Then they
Yeah.
also have people who have like these magical belts that allow them, that are basically just like shape changer belts
Mm.
that allow them to
Shape changer
transform
belts.
at will into wolves.
Okay.
And then there's a loop guru, and that's part of the reason why I like the um the monster as a whole, is because that thing was an absolute badass. It storms into a freaking police station, rips apart like 30 cops, and then gets driven off by the wizard. But
The wizard.
yeah, it's a wizard. It's a Dresden Files is a wizard private investigator in modern day Chicago.
Okay. Sick. That's
It's a really
awesome.
fun series. So yeah,
It
so
sounds sick.
this whole situation is happening in like present day or present
Okay,
day for
okay.
then. Yeah. So, but the Loop Guru is a very scary beast, and that's the one you have to kill with the silver bullet. The other ones,
Right, right.
regular bullets will do it. You're
That's
good
so
with just
funny.
regular bullets.
When I think of werewolves, a couple of things come to mind. It's Underworld
Oh yeah.
and Van Helsing,
Mm-hmm.
the Hugh Jackman one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And also, like, while I haven't seen the entire movies, I've seen the clips. The one with Benicio del Toro, where he's like in the chair in front of like an audience of people, like a hearing, and then he looks over at the window and you see the full moon peek behind the clouds, and he's sitting there and he's like kind of strapped down to a chair, and this one guy has his back turned to Benicio del Toro, and he's looking at the audience and he's going, "This man is insane. He thinks he's a werewolf. What a crazy guy. We can't trust this guy." As he's transforming, he's like, "No." He's transforming in the chair, and this guy's going, "What a fibber, this freak, this loser. He thinks he can transform into a werewolf. What an idiot." And everybody in the audience is going, "Behind you." And he finally turns around, sees it, and is like freaking out. So funny. But not that it's actually a funny scene. It's very intense, and like at
Yeah.
the time, the special effects incredible. Transformations usually are so intense. There's like
Yeah.
each director slash storyteller does it a little differently, but sometimes it involves like true body horror. But yeah, werewolves, lycanthropy, the whole vibe is very interesting. There's usually this element, at least I think in our heads, of a loss of control. You know, like you lose your
Yeah.
humanity,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you're letting in for that beast mentality. And I think yeah, when it's an NPC, when it's a monster in the game, that's pretty simple to handle. When it
Mm-hmm.
flips over to the PCs is when things can get a little tricky.
Right. Right. Because you don't want to take the agency away, but also, sometimes
How do
them's
you
the
give it some
rules.
oomph?
Right.
It's like
Right.
how much, yeah, how do you reflect that it's a big deal while not
Mm-hmm.
taking away their agency and being like, "No, you're a monster, you're killing your friends." You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe there's a middle ground, maybe there's a way to do it. We'll get into it. But
Mm-hmm.
sorry, I need a big sip of coffee before I go into this incredible blurb about our Patreon. I
Easy killer.
spilled. Luckily, it's lukewarm. Gang, have you checked out the Patreon? It's incredible. There's all kinds of content on there. Everything from homebrew material, bonus podcast episodes. There's stuff like the Action Surge. Man, you got to check it out. It's so much fun. Each episode better than the last. And without further ado, let's get back into the meat of the episode.
Let's do it. So, first on the agenda, speaking of lycanthropy, would you, yeah, it's coffee on a white
It's
shirt.
not like
It's
we're on
not
camera.
great.
We're not recording, right?
Yeah. It's not on video. Don't worry about
We're
it.
not recording,
No,
right?
so lycanthropy is a curse of sorts, but there
Yes,
are
it
a
is.
lot of different curses in D&D. So like what is the kind of like definition of a D&D curse?
Great question. So I did a little bit of research in the 2024 books. So
Hmm.
I don't have the monster manual, and straight up, I don't plan on getting it. I don't think I need it. But
Right.
just as a being transparent, I wasn't looking in that book. I was looking in the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Player's Handbook. What I found was that a curse is considered a magical burden that lasts for a specified time or until it is ended by some means, which is as vague as it gets.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of curses because that can mean anything.
It really
Um,
can.
yeah, like
But it has to be the big thing is that it's magical versus like physical.
yes, of course. I think they could have added another word or two because like that also if I cast hold person on you,
Hmm.
that's a burden. It's magical, but it's not a curse,
It's
right? Like I don't know, it's a
right.
little vague, but
Yeah,
regardless,
yeah.
you'll know it when you see it, right?
Hmm.
Um, it has curse vibes. Like we get it. Lycanthropy, one of the most common ones. Uh, they actually didn't. I couldn't find it literally anywhere. I went to the index of both of these books, looked at for lycanthropy. I like triple checked that I was
So
spelling it
that's just
right.
not a mechanic
Not even
anymore.
in the index. It wasn't in the books, so I couldn't
Crazy.
find it in there. But they do go over lycanthropy in the 2014 Monster Manual.
Hmm. Hmm.
Not
Hmm.
much, but they
Maybe
do
they
go over it.
just noticed, maybe they just said, okay, well, this is perfect already. We don't need to change it. We'll just leave it in there. And then you
We'll
can use
just
the
leave it in there
2014.
for
That's
people to
fine.
get. Yeah. So I'm sure that that's exactly what the wizards were thinking with their almighty knowledge. But if you get lycanthropy from an injury, for example, a werewolf bites you, then
Mhm.
you can remove it with remove curse. But if you were born with lycanthropy, then only wish can actually remove it.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Again, this is what the book says. This does
Mhm.
not mean that you at your table have to do it this way, but I'm just telling you what the book said.
That's that's crazy. Yeah, I think so. I do have big feelings about this, actually. Like, I think remove curse is way too light of a restriction for something like lycanthropy.
Oh, you think it's too easy to get rid of?
I think it's too easy to get rid of. I
I sort
get
of
why they
agree. I
would
mean,
make it easy to get rid of because, like, again, if a player doesn't want to be a werewolf, you shouldn't force them into being a werewolf,
no
you
doubt.
know?
No doubt. Or you
So,
shouldn't
like,
at that point, like, if a player
yeah,
has like voiced that they don't want to be a werewolf, then yeah, you either have to find a way to give them a cure or you have to maybe not even use werewolves.
right.
Maybe use something else because the point of the werewolf is that it bites you and potentially changes you into a werewolf. So it's like
Right.
you're taking away a huge part of what werewolves are by
Hmm.
being like, oh, okay, all the other players can get turned, but you don't get turned. You're magically again. I don't know. You have to find
Right.
a way. But yeah, it was like when you contract lycanthropy. So when the werewolf bites you, you fail the Constitution save. You get to choose, and this is what the book. This is all the book really says about it. You decide whether to embrace it or resist it.
Okay.
They don't really go into what that means. Obviously, we can use context clues. Embracing it means you're accepting the curse. Resisting it
Hmm.
means you're trying to fight against the werewolf curse. I get that.
So
When
does that, I mean, would that mean that you can just choose to fail the con save when it comes up?
I suppose, I don't know. It doesn't mention that.
Fair
This
enough.
is like, yeah, because you fail it and then contract lycanthropy and
Right.
then decide to embrace or resist.
Right. I
So it's
gotcha.
really like you've already got lycanthropy. So you've already failed that
Okay.
con save. Now you're
Gotcha.
choosing do I embrace this or do I resist this? And
Okay.
when you embrace it, you can get the strength score of the monster stat that you're becoming. So if it's a werebear, whatever their strength is, you have that
Uh-huh.
strength. Unless yours is higher, and then you keep that. Were rats, it's a little different. It's dexterity. Um, and like when you embrace it, according to the books, you also get their alignment. Some of the lycanthropies also gain a +1 to AC. It doesn't ever really go over again like what embracing it or resisting it means in a more like literal
Right.
sense. It just we have to use context clues to figure out what that means. If is it purely role play based? If so, help me out a little bit. But
Right.
yeah,
I
it
mean,
portrays it also just mentions that it suggests the idea that the DM could take control of the PC while it's in full transformation form to sort of simulate that you are
ugh,
quote unquote going out of control. But we already kind of discussed
ugh.
how that
I'm not
feels
crazy
most of the
about that.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not crazy about that. So it can be done. It can be
Yeah, of
done.
course.
I think with the right player group, it would be totally a-okay, peachy keen. We've done enough of these Reddit horror stories episodes for me to know that this could also turn very poorly very quickly.
Hmm.
So it needs to be handled with care. Got to
Oh
put
yeah.
the mittens on.
Definitely. Definitely. I think so then to transition into how we would use lycanthropy in our game. So let's say we
Mm,
are using a monster stat that has lycanthropy as a thing. It's a curse that they could pass on to the players and the players
mhm,
catch it. How would we obviously we would have a conversation with the players and see like what feels good, but like because that's genuinely what I would do is I would have a conversation with the players and be like, here's an idea I have, but I'm willing to kind of meet you in the middle or like collab a little bit on how
mhm.
we think lycanthropy should look and work mechanically,
Right.
you know? Because like I might come in with this idea of like, here's how we're gonna do it, X, Y, and Z. But sometimes it's like, hey, if this is an actual play, we're gonna be here for 8 episodes. Let's have an episode where you
Yeah.
go full werewolf and then the rest of the show you're just kind of fighting against it, blah blah blah. Because
Mhm, mhm.
we only have 8 episodes, you're not the main character, you're one of the main characters. So
Right.
that would be a different conversation because it's an actual
Yeah,
play.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
totally
And
different.
it
But
really does depend on how you want to play the werewolf thing. I'm gonna go back to I'm glad I brought up Full Moon earlier because um they actually do handle it very differently depending on the different type of werewolf. And so it kind of gives me a little bit of idea of we can play this werewolf in a couple of different ways. Like number one is obviously the full loss of control. You go crazy. That's like the loop
on one
guru
side of
coming
the
in. Yeah,
spectrum.
on the one side of the spectrum, you are full out of control, um, destroying everything you come in contact with. But then you could just dial it back a touch. And then there's a biker gang who is actually all werewolves.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're just generally more aggressive at times. And then they have the ability to, like on the full moon, they will turn into a thing, but it doesn't fully rob them of their intelligence. It just makes them kind of a leaner, more aggressive killing machine type of thing. They run faster,
Right.
they're stronger,
Right.
all that stuff. And then the last,
Okay.
very last part of it would be the maintaining your full person intelligence inside of an animal, which is the last group. They have the shape changer belts or whatever. They are themselves, they're just shape changed into a wolf.
Okay.
So they are just full wolf. So
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
like, so there's
Interesting.
increments that you could do with it that don't necessarily have
Absolutely.
to be full Hulk out and kill your party or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to mention there's also like wiggle room even within those where you can have it. This is like it depends on how complicated you want things to get too. How long of a campaign is this? How in depth are we getting with some of the world building stuff? Because like, do you want to have there be a lunar cycle? Is it that something that you really need to be paying attention to, or is it like,
Mm,
hey, every 5 sessions make a con save. I don't know.
Right.
Like something crazy like that. Like where it's like very limited amounts you might lose control. You still keep your character, but it's like, hey Taylor, everybody looks like villains. You know what I mean? Like they're trying to trick you
now. Yeah.
or something like that, where it's just like for one thing. And then maybe there's a level of like control that you gain over time where it's like now you can kind of move the spectrum, move the goalposts, so to speak, of being like, hey, now I can control it better than I could before. So I think all of those are like things to think of. I think the lunar cycle one is like maybe not the direction I would go into unless it was like as basic as possible. But
yeah, I think it would need to be super basic, but I also kind of like the I was just thinking about this of like in RP a player calling out, "Hey, is the moon full?" and then making them roll for it. Just if something the players, you can keep track of like, hey, how recently have we done a full moon? No, it's way too soon. We just had one. But every now and then in session when players are thinking about it, hey, what's the moon like right now? And then they can roll for it. And either it'll be tonight or tomorrow night or depending on how they roll. And
like,
then
oh
have
fuck,
those.
it is tonight.
Yeah. We have that big heist tonight. No.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that's so funny. I like that. I like that idea. It can sneak up on you. What a crazy thing for a werewolf to be, is forgetful of the date. What day is it? Oh shit! It's the month. Fuck! It's tonight. That's so funny. So then, kind of continuing our talk about lycanthropy, but sort of transitioning very slowly into our next topic: remove curse. So this third level spell gives us the ability in 2014 and 2024. I've listed the links for both. They are just about identical, and I only use the word just about because I'm too lazy to literally put them side by side and look at them. But it is like practically word for word. I can't find a single difference that matters. So it's at your touch, all curses affecting one creature or object end. If the object is a cursed magic item, its curse remains, but the spell breaks its owner's attunement to the object so that it can be removed or discarded. Takes an action. It's a third level abjuration spell. Verbal and somatic, instantaneous, requires touch. So you get third level spells, assuming you're going full caster. You get third level spells at fifth level. Out of 20. That's like a quarter of the game.
Yeah.
That you're only in being 5 levels, and already you can just end lycanthropy on people. You can just all of these different things.
I'm not crazy about it. It's super strong for yeah. I mean, because like even dispel magic is the same kind of deal, but depending on the level,
you have the chance. Yeah, it has that other mechanic like 2014 counterspell does.
Right.
Where you're rolling against it. You could potentially, like dispel magic. If it's a third level spell you're dispelling, good to go.
Right.
Anything higher than that, then you have to roll. And that was exciting because it was like sometimes you don't know what you're up against. Sometimes what you're going up against is way powerful, but at least you have a chance. And so it felt good.
And I think, so I think that putting a good way for if a party wants to experience lycanthropy would be to put that kind of a mechanic on the lycanthropy curse, even though not dispel magic, but remove curse says any curse or whatever. I think I would add that mechanic of making them roll for it. Like, okay, now you get a chance to break it if you want.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would start considering remove curse just like dispel magic, and I would start having these sort of levels of curses so that that was a new sort of mechanic in the game, that there are levels of curses just like there are levels of spells. I think that makes perfect sense. It happens in media all the time. Why not? I don't understand. Yeah, it's I think a really like weird thing that they did. It kind of minimizes curses.
Yeah, it
So
makes them pretty much like, why would you even bring him out? Because you know that the players are going to get rid of it immediately.
exactly. Exactly. It's yeah, it just feels silly to me. Not to mention, if we look at a spell like Bestow Curse,
Mm-hmm.
a spell that I don't often take, to be totally honest, but we can look at the spell text for Bestow Curse to kind of give us a little bit of an idea of the levels of curses.
Right.
Because with that, you're literally putting a curse on somebody. I mean, that's what the spell is literally called.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to make a wisdom save or they become cursed. You get to choose what the curse looks like. Either they have a disadvantage on ability checks and saving throws made with a particular ability. You could give them disadvantage on attack rolls against you. Um, Maybe they have to take the dodge action every turn. You force them to dodge every turn instead of attack. Uh, all kinds of stuff, right? Extra damage. And
That's crazy.
when you upcast it,
I'm looking at
the
these upcast
concentration
rules. Those are
time
fun. Yes.
the concentration time changes. So
Uh-huh.
at a 4th level, you're looking at a 10-minute concentration. 5th
Uh-huh.
level, it doesn't even require concentration. And it can
Uh-huh.
last 8 hours, 24 hours for level 7 and 8. And if it's a permanent curse that will continue until it is dispelled, that's a 9th level slot.
That's crazy, but
Now
wow.
imagine
Yeah.
Now imagine you cast a 9th level bestow curse on an NPC or a monster,
Uh, uh-huh.
and I use a 3rd level remove curse to get rid of it.
I would lose my mind.
Feels bad.
I would lose it.
Feels bad. Doesn't feel good. Now, if I used a 9th level remove curse, it would be like, well, that sucks that you
At
just got rid
least
of my
your
thing,
power
but at
word kill's
least
not on the table anymore.
exactly. Unless I throw in a monster with 2 9th level spell slots, sometimes
Oh,
I might do that.
how dare
I
you?
have plans maybe. But
Great.
the point
Lovely.
is
That
this.
last fight went so well.
I genuinely think that yeah, we should handle remove curse more like dispel magic and it would infinitely improve things. So, and I mean, let's look at the curses of the
Yeah.
many curses that are listed in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Oh wait, they only mention one. There's
Oh
only
wait.
one actual
Yep.
example of a curse, and it is a demonic possession, which is an environmental curse. Yeah, it's not great.
Okay.
It's not great, and we'll get into it in a second. So they list out in the Dungeon Master's Guide, they list out types of curses. They talk about bestow curse. They talk about cursed creatures, werewolves, mummies, creatures that are associated with a curse or could pass the curse on. We've already talked about lycanthropy, so we'll move on. There's cursed magic items. It talks about that very
Yep.
briefly. Some magic items are cursed. Sometimes people
Mhm.
deliberately curse a magic item. Sometimes it's an accidental result while you're creating the magic item. Um, one example, there's a magic item that I always think is very funny called the Shield of Missile Attraction. So while you're holding this, you do have resistance to damage from attacks made with ranged weapons.
Okay, cool. Like that.
However, when you attune to this, you become cursed. Any ranged weapon that targets a creature within 10 feet of you targets you instead.
That's
So
hilarious.
there's a 10-foot sinkhole around you that's just pulling
Just a
arrows into
gravity
you.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, literally. So
That's
funny.
crazy. I
And
mean, so that's not terrible.
it's not
Not
the
a
worst
terrible.
one. There's definitely
Not
way there's
terrible.
ones that'll like kill you, but like
Yeah.
this is nothing compared to that.
This
It's
is
just
a
a funny
silly
one. I
curse.
like
Yeah,
it.
this is a
Yeah.
silly curse, and I like it.
And so in order to break this, you would have to break the attunement. In order to break the attunement, you have to remove the curse.
Mhm.
So you cast remove curse, it removes the attunement so that the person can kind of get rid of it in
Get
that
rid of
way.
it. Right.
But
Yeah.
the object will stay cursed. So if it attunes to the next person, they also are now a gravity sinkhole for arrows.
Mhm.
So that's how cursed magic items mostly work. They're very interesting because if you read Identify and things of that nature, Detect Magic, verbatim, rules is written, they don't mention being able to identify a cursed item as cursed. You can do all the other parts of it, but the curse itself isn't something that Identify allows. Similarly, it's just a first level spell.
Very true.
So it's like it kind of shouldn't do that. I don't think so, at least.
And if you
I
go
feel very strongly about that.
If you go by the bestow curse thing spell, for it, the curse to last as long as it is, it's 9th level.
Right.
Theoretically.
Yeah, no doubt.
So 100%. A first level, yeah. I mean,
so it makes sense that a first level spell shouldn't work on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then there are also narrative curses. These are just somebody gets cursed because of a thing that they did. They broke a vow. They killed an innocent person. They defiled a holy place. They spray painted a dick on the walls of a church. This curse is whatever you choose. It should be a collab between the player, but because you want them to know why they're being cursed and how they should fix it, or how they can at least start the process of going about it. That's going to make someone feeling, if you get cursed, it's going to make you feel a whole lot better if you know why you got cursed and how you get rid of it. As opposed to being like, why the fuck did I just lose a level in Paladin? What is happening? You know what I mean? You're like,
yeah,
okay, I broke my oath, but how? Like, what action? I did a lot yesterday.
Right.
What specifically did I do yesterday that fucked me over? And then we have environmental curses. So some locations, they're so evil, they're so filled with magic, whatever it may be, that it can like cause you to have a curse if you're there for too long, sort of exposed to those kind of conditions. An example is if you're in the abyss for too long, you can become possessed by a demon.
Nice.
And technically, I guess demonic possession is a curse, which I did not know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's got to be something.
I suppose. Yeah. I just thought it was a possession. I didn't think that it fell under the category of curse.
Fair enough.
Is it specifically a demonic possession? Like if a ghost possesses you, is that a curse, or is that different because it's not a demon? Like that's where I'm a little lost.
Yeah. They definitely could have gone a lot more in depth. On this in the book.
And they don't. All they say is you make a charisma 15 save and you will avoid being possessed. So fantastic. On a fail, possessed. Bummer. Bummer. You're possessed. Anytime that while you're possessed by this demon, anytime that you roll a nat 1 on a D20 test, the demon takes over for the rest of that turn.
Okay.
At the end of that turn, re-roll the DC 15 charisma save. On a success, you get your body back. On a fail, the demon maintains.
What?
Excuse me. At the end of a long rest, you can remake the save to see if you can get rid of that demon. Spells like Dispel Evil and Good or Remove Curse could also end it.
Crazy.
Yeah. So that's the thing is like, if you're a cleric, why the hell, unless you only had the spell slots for this really specifically, but why the hell would you cast a 5th level Dispel Evil and Good when a 3rd level Remove Curse would work? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Drives me nuts. Unless we implemented our little thing and we were like, it's got to be a 5th level Remove Curse.
Right.
I think that's way more interesting. So that's all the books go over. That's it. Everything we've gone over is what the books go over.
I think that's a good kind of blueprint for a curse, though. I think as far as the demonic possession thing goes, like it gives you, like I like the nat 1 weird thing mechanic, but you can insert rather than the demon taking control over the person for a turn. Maybe they fall prone or something like that, like something kind of little more serious, but I mean, falling prone in some fights would suck.
Yeah.
So,
and there's so many things you could do. There's so many curses that you could inflict because it's really just like some sort of and you can rank it based on how severe you want it to be, ranging from like straight up just like a gag joke all the way up to deadly curses, right? So,
yeah.
And they can be curses that are intentionally short curses where it's like, yeah, you could get rid of it earlier with the remove curse, or you could just wait an hour or two. Like it's eventually going to go away.
Yeah.
But so like I included a link on the outline of a bunch of different curses that you literally, gang, you just go to Google, you type in magical curses 5e, and you find a million things. And I found a link and I'm looking at it right now. One of them is just a thunderous voice narrates everything the cursed does, says, or thinks for the next D4 hours. Kind of crazy. Kind of crazy. Obviously comedic, a little funny. Animals and children are always aware of your presence and are able to locate you without difficulty.
Character takes on the appearance and smell of being undead, but isn't.
That's pretty crazy. This character, your character is unable to sleep when others are sleeping in a 60-foot radius. No one big bed for you. You got to sleep outside.
Yeah.
Some of these are very role play based on this particular list here. Like one of them's like the PC has to tell one lie once a day. Must make one significant lie per day. Automatically fails all swimming checks. So you just lose the ability to swim. That's kind of crazy. Makes an unarmed, this is obviously a comedy one, makes an unarmed attack against themselves whenever they say what? What? Stop hitting yourself. That's so funny. So there's all kinds of curses. So let's get into, Taylor, the next little part of our episode here.
Yeah.
Where we're going to talk a little bit about magical maladies, some diseases, some illnesses, some contagions. What is a disease?
The Collins Dictionary says it's an illness that affects people, animals, plants, and plants. For example, one caused by bacteria or an infection.
Incredible.
But in D&D, it's pretty much the same thing. The mechanics get weird, and you probably have to change it, but it's pretty much the same deal. You get a germ, and now you're sick.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just a sickness, and we're gonna get into how it works in D&D. So, in the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide, they list them as magical contagions. When you look up diseases, it says, it says, hey, pal, head over to magical contagions. Why don't you? And I said, okay, partner, giddy up, you know? And so it lists it as an adverse effect of magical origin that is contagious by definition. So when the book talks about diseases or contagions, they mean magical ones, and they often are contagious. That's like a really big part of it. There's always a list, or excuse me, some mechanics listed for the examples. This one, they actually did offer examples, which we'll go over on page 61 in the DMG 2024. But they list like how it can spread. So it's something to think about. Just like there are real diseases and they can spread any number of ways, whether you actually have to have like sexually transmitted diseases versus a airborne pathogen kind of thing. So there's varying levels of spreadability, if you will. And so it's something to consider. And obviously, if we're going to be talking about people getting sick, we got to talk about people getting better.
Yeah.
Right? The miracle of medicine and rest and recuperation. Because remember, gang, in D&D, 8 hours can cure just about anything.
Just about anything.
Just about anything most of the times. Maybe not literally, but just about. Because I found this really interesting, Taylor, because I don't think this has ever come up. Maybe, and I don't know if this is even in 2014, but according to the book, if a creature spends 3 days recuperating, no activities. So 3 days of
days
long
in
rest.
Bed. Yeah.
Then they can make a DC 15 con save. If they succeed on that con save, then for the next 24 hours, anytime they make a saving throw to like fight the disease, they have advantage. So it doesn't even, the rest of recuperation doesn't cure anything. It just makes you better at fighting off the disease.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's pretty interesting. I thought it was a really interesting
That's
mechanic because I
tough
was like,
too. I mean,
dang, I've never even heard of that.
Yeah.
Obviously it depends on like in our setting, in our home game, 3 days would be huge to
It
be
would
out
be.
for that long. Because we kind of, maybe that's kind of my own style as a DM, I find, is that like I'm cool with time jumps to a certain degree, but when we're in an episode or like in a session, it's usually like we're going minute by minute. It feels sometimes like I like to sit in things, and so like 3 days is like, bro, that's like 12 sessions. That's so many sessions that you're not playing that character. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Just for it to be advantage on the saves, not even to cure anything. So it was like, whoa.
Yeah, and
That's hardcore.
it's not even you just get it after the 3 days. You have to roll a save to possibly get it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's crazy. That's a lot of time sunk into that. Thank God there are a lot of ways to get rid of them other than, well, a couple of ways. You got a paladin, you're in easy street.
Well, how much did they change? We just did the episode on Paladin. Didn't they change the Paladin's lay on hands where it doesn't necessarily cure diseases? It mentions you cure poisoned condition in the very beginning. And then they add a bunch of other things like deafen, this and that. I don't know if
we're gonna get that 2024 crap
disease
out of here.
Is like explicitly written there. It's pretty
2014,
crazy.
baby.
So that's the other interesting thing is just like each contagion that we'll talk about has a different way of spreading. There's a different way to attack it and actually cure the disease. And there is obviously different effects. It has different effects and different characteristics and stuff like that. Like, where does this disease happen? You know, how do people catch this? What is causing this disease to be prevalent in this area? Blah blah blah. All those kinds of like lore, world building kind of questions, you know.
Right.
And so that's where I think is pretty interesting, and how a DM would use this kind of stuff. So, getting into some of the examples, the first one that they have is cackle fever.
Jesus.
I don't know, man. Cackle fever. It's commonly found when there are cheaply made potions or elixirs. I thought this was really interesting. This is what happens when people are making healing potions and elixirs and stuff like that in bathtubs and toilets, and it's just unhygienic. They're not getting the measurements right. Their work standards are low. They're not wearing gloves or washing their hands. You know what I mean? Like, and then you get these potions and they're a little funky.
Cackle fever.
And you have the possibility of getting some cackle fever. So this is actually a really interesting disease. For one, it only affects humanoids, but gnomes are immune to it for some reason. Even the book was like, we're not even sure why. They are. So gnomes are immune to this. Now, you suffer the following effects for 1d4 days. So when somebody gets this, boom, 1d4 days.
Does it list any kind of a save against this at the beginning, or you drink a crappy potion, you get this?
I think if you're getting it from a crappy potion, I think you just get it.
Okay.
Yeah. But then there's spreading contagion, which we'll go over in a second. And that's a little different. If you're getting it from a contact of like another person who has cackle fever, then it's much easier to fight off than if you were drinking it directly, then it's like directly in your system.
Gotcha.
So that being said, you're suffering these effects for 1d4 days. The first thing is a fever, where you immediately gain a point of exhaustion.
Okay.
You're going to have that point of exhaustion until the contagion ends. So until you cure the whole disease,
wow,
that point of exhaustion will be there. Now, the next symptom, uncontrollable laughter. Here's where the cackle comes in. While you have the exhausted condition, you have to make a DC 13 con save every time you take damage other than psychic damage.
Okay.
If you fail that DC 13 con save, you take 1d10 psychic damage and you become incapacitated, uncontrollably laughing.
Wow. Every attack becomes Tasha's hideous laughter.
It's pretty fucking bad. It's pretty fucking bad.
Yeah.
Now, at the end of each of your turns, you can remake the save to stop laughing, and the maximum amount of time you can laugh is for 1 minute. LOL.
Okay.
Now, that is still crazy because you're
crazy.
potentially losing so much action economy by having this disease, unless you're not finding a way not to take damage, because that's going to be the most important thing. You got to not take damage.
Right.
Because you are not doing well.
I mean, a 13 is not terrible, but it still is not great.
Yeah, no,
like,
it depends.
It's not great to have. It's not great to have to try to keep hitting it over and over and over again.
Over and over again, especially if you're not proficient in con saves and you don't have like a +4 or something, like you only have a +2, then it's like, woof, I need an 11 or more. That's right. So how do we fight cackle fever? Well, first of all, at the end of a long rest, you can make a DC 13 con save. Once you rack up 3 successes, you end the contagion. So minimum, it's going to last you 3 days.
Wild.
Once you end the contagion like this, you do become immune to cackle fever for an entire year.
Oh, then you need your booster shot.
Then you need a booster shot or something, or you need to catch it again, build up that natural immunity. So how do we spread cackle fever other than making cheaply made potions or elixirs? Any humanoid that starts its turn within 10 feet of an infected creature has to make a DC 10 con save or catches it.
Crazy.
Yeah. So just being within 10 feet immediately puts you at risk.
That's a lot of room. That's a lot of space.
Yeah. But once you save, you're immune for at least the next 24 hours. So you have a little bit of time. Right. So then we get into our next disease here. This is sewer plague.
Okay.
Sewer plague. They listed, this is how they phrased it, fouled potions. I was like, how is that different than the last thing? We just went over how unclean, cheaply made potions, fouled potions. The only thing I could think of is that this is a potion that went bad.
Right.
Like, somebody left it out
on the counter or something.
Yeah, this is just like skunk potions. So skunk potions and alchemical waste can give rise to sewer plague.
Okay.
It's also found in sewers and refuse heaps. Whoa, that sounds crazy. It is sometimes transmitted by. Now, this next monster is a mystery to me on how to pronounce this.
Otyugs?
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 I think people will already know kind of where we're coming from. So, Otyugs, Otyugs. I have no fucking clue.
Yeah.
And rats. And rats spread sewer plague.
They do.
So when you become wounded by a creature that carries it, or you come into contact with contaminated filth or offal, which is another fancy word for organs and shit, viscera.
Yeah.
You must make a DC 11 con save.
Okay.
Now, after you become infected, you will suffer for 1d4 days. That suffering includes, but is not limited to, fatigue, aka 1 level of exhaustion.
Yep.
Weakness. While exhausted, you regain only half of the normal hit points when you spend hit die. And restlessness. While exhausted, finishing a long rest neither restores hit points or reduces exhaustion levels.
Wow. Whoa.
Yeah. So you are only healing because of healing potions, spells, or short rests for all of that time. And you are only able to get rid of these exhaustion levels with greater restoration, one at a time. Unless you fight the contagion. How do we fight the contagion? Every day at dawn, specifically with the morning sun, you must make a DC 11 con save. On a fail, gain another exhaustion level, buddy.
Wow.
On a success, decrease your exhaustion level by 1. If reduced to 0, the contagion ends.
Jeez, that's rough, buddy. I mean, again, in 11, it's not bad, but it sucks to have to do it over and over and over again.
Oh, yeah. It sucks. And it sucks.
You could die.
Imagine that. You're waking up the next day, you're going, okay, I got 1 point of exhaustion. If I make this 11, boom, I'm out of here. Boom, nat 1. Fuck. Oh, no.
Right.
Like how fast that it's like the Olympics. You've been training for 4 years. Your life is on the line. All you got to do is jump over these 3 hurdles. You're good to go right there. There's the finish line. Oh, you tripped. Oh no. All this time went come down to a fraction of a second. Brutal. So it is a pretty hefty disease with a rather low saving throw to make. But yes, once you get it, it sucks. And that is also true for our next one, sight rot.
Gross.
Sight rot is something that any beast or humanoid can catch, and it is usually found in, tainted drinking water. So if you drink this tainted water, then you must succeed on a DC 15 Constitution save, or be blinded until the contagion ends.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude.
So this is rough. This is really rough. I'm trying to think of it also is very fun narratively because my brain,
my first thought is like, actually how cool this would be.
Like you could just
like Samurai Jack just be.
Yeah, well that, but also like the actual like coming across the tainted water. You could put clues around of like, oh, there's a deer running through the woods, and it just face plants into a tree.
Yeah, 100%, dude.
Squirrel tries to jump from branch to branch and falls out.
Yeah, totally
the branch completely. Yeah,
biffs it. Yeah, that'd be so funny, actually.
Yeah,
just a bunch of dumb animals. Until the contagion ends. So fighting this contagion. Now you can use something. This is another interesting example of them being like, now you could use a 7th level heal or a 2nd level lesser restoration. Your choice. Anyway, our insurance company only covers the 7th layer heal. So, and the nice thing is, if you have a player who is proficient with the herbalism kit, you can make a dose of cure. It takes you an hour to do. The ointment that you create with this dose suppresses the condition for 24 hours. And if you keep doing this so that the condition is suppressed for 24 hours, then it ends. So it's that old idea of, hey, the doctor gave you X number of pills. Take all of the pills, even though the symptoms started clearing up after the first couple. Right? Yeah. Like how many people do that? And then it comes back and they're like, damn it. And it's like, well, did you take all the pills? Anyway.
So now, 3 days of getting ointment rubbed on your eyes and that's it. It's over.
Exactly. Okay. And you're good to go.
I like that.
But while you still have it, if you make skin contact with a creature, then they have to make a DC 15 con save, or then they are affected. Now, on a success, not only do you not get it, but you can't catch it from that person for 24 hours.
Okay.
So that's nice. Now you can touch that person as much as you want or as little as you want, whatever. They still have sight rot.
Whatever. It's,
but you can touch them.
Mm-hmm.
You want, whatever. Now, those are the 3 that are listed in the Dungeon Master's
That would be
Guide.
really fun.
Obviously, we can get outside the box.
That one disease is a very fun, I think, quest idea or something of like a side quest. Something. There is a pool of rotted water somewhere that you have to find because all the animals and all the people that go out there are getting blinded.
You have to cure the water. First level, purify food and drink. I love these. I think they're really interesting. I think they give a good framework for how to maybe create something like this in your games if you wanted to homebrew something. And I also think you don't necessarily have to follow this as like a tight rubric where everything has to have this explicit like fighting the contagion, spreading the contagion. I mean, it's a good idea for the sake of magical contagions, like just to have an idea of how you defeat it and how it spreads. But I do like to think about other magical maladies that are possible in a D&D game. Now, Taylor, you're aware of this. Our listeners may not be aware of this, but behind the scenes, we're working hard on a couple of actual plays for next year. And one of them, it involves some medical stuff. Okay, gang? And the funny thing is this. I am doing my damnedest to try and create some interesting encounters that involve medical stuff that medical professionals would have to potentially solve. And how do we do that thinking outside the box? Because the Dungeon Master's Guide only has 3 options, and they are in the Dungeon Master's Guide. So I don't necessarily want to use the most textbook things that are literally textbook. So trying to think outside the box. And that's where inspiration lies, is when you have to get crazy with it. And you're starting to think about not just like within the genre. So like medical dramas, for example, and thinking of different episodes of House and Grey's Anatomy and ER and The Resident and Pitt and all these different shows and how I can draw inspiration from those, but also other things. The characters get sick in TV shows all the time, and there's so much you can learn from how that show does it, because especially if you're looking at a show, for example, Rugrats. We remember Nickelodeon, one of Nickelodeon's OG shows, right? It was Doug, Ren and Stimpy, and Rugrats. All came out on like the same day. For Nickelodeon. It really set up the trajectories for those shows and those like archetypes. That's Doug, Taylor. We're talking about Rugrats. Reptar. Anyway, I know. I'm trying to think of the. Oh, wait. That's definitely it.
Yeah.
The milk on the thing. Okay. There's an episode, and I'm sure you remember it, where Chucky, the kids, the babies, they're eating some watermelons. And Chucky eats a watermelon seed. And Angelica quickly seizes her moment as a bully and is like, you're going to grow a watermelon out of your belly.
And your belly button.
Like, watermelons are actively growing inside of you, you fool. And he's like, oh no. And so they have to sort of, I think this is like one of those episodes where they get into their imagination. Yeah, they shrink down and they do a whole Miss Frizzle inside the body kind of situation. Yeah, it's a hilarious episode. Which, by the way, gang, in your D&D games, because magic exists, or if you're doing a futuristic setting where like high advanced technology exists, do an encounter where you have to shrink down and go inside someone's body. It's amazing. It's so fun. I've done it. I did it in Sphinx City once, in my home game version of it. And it was so fucking fun, because it was just like, hey, this guy's going to turn into a fucking crocodile person if if you don't fight the virus from within. And they had to go within. And that episode was really funny. Unfortunately, when they're going from organ to organ, you do have to say the word sphincter more times than you would like.
Oh yeah.
And so that is a thing. That's medical. That's just medical.
Your whole body is just tubes and sphincters.
Right. And it's medical, gang. Get your head out of the gutters, gang. Grow up. It's medical. Okay. It's science. The sphincter is science. And that's our next t-shirt coming up. The sphincter
with just a big sphincter.
God damn. Okay. So that was a really funny idea. Watermelon growing out of the belly button. And then there's other ideas. So mentioning back to the like medical dramas, there's an actual disorder, or more specifically like a syndrome or whatever, that is called auto brewery syndrome.
Oh,
which is a real thing that people can get. And it is featured in almost every medical drama that you will see, from House to Grey's Anatomy to The Resident. They will do an episode on this, assuredly, because it is good content.
Right.
And so why can't we also do that? But let's put a twist on it so that we make it our own, and consider that we're usually doing these in worlds that magic exists. Right. And so auto brewery syndrome, where a person's body is actively turning the food that they eat in their stomach into yeast, which then produces alcohol. And so their body is a beer keg that is just producing beer in their stomach and getting them drunk from the inside. And so how can we replicate that in a funny, interesting, silly way that involves magic and stuff? And the way I thought of was like a gnome who was slowly turning into candy and stuff like that. Like his fingernail, he came in and his fingernails were turning into peppermint. And he was like, this isn't good. This is wrong. What's going on? Help me so much. Help me, please. And they found out that it was auto confectionery syndrome. So instead of turning it all into yeast and stuff, it was just turning it into icing and cupcakes and sugar. And
because magic. I mean, why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the takeaway, gang.
This man was turning into fucking sugar. It was not good. So that was a lot of fun and interesting. But there's like, you can start to look at now in those examples, they're not contagious. So they're not a magical contagion in that way.
Right.
Because it's not something that was spreading from person to person.
Now,
you could add it if you wanted to, but it was still a disease. So it was still something that they had to problem solve. And those were good examples with like auto confectionery syndrome, the watermelon growing out of the belly button. I've also done like when one of the patients is like a victim of modify memory, or you have all kinds of like crazy effects, right? Like things of like, a mind flayer does the mind blast thing. Like, let's take that one step further. If you're a victim of that, what does it look like 10 years later? And can we cure it? Can we fix it or whatever? So just like thinking of like things that monsters are capable of through their abilities, or like spells in the game, and just extrapolating from there into making it something that a magical doctor would see, and then just figuring it out from there, sort of. A lot of those, like, because like with sight rot, with the examples that they've given, they have like a fighting the contagion. This is how you do it.
Right.
But even then, it's not very specific. I mean, they have specifics when it comes to like the sight rot with the herbalism kit thing. That's pretty specific. But they also have magic such as heal or lesser restoration.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I'll spend 3 days doing this when I can just cast a second level spell. What are we doing? You know what I mean? So what I like to do for a lot of the ones that I'm inventing up, or that I'm like shifting from auto brewery syndrome into auto confectionery syndrome, is I don't have written down one way to solve this.
Right.
I don't know. It's kind of whatever feels good in the moment. If the players, because the players will they'll ask questions, they'll try and figure it out. They'll do tests and research and all different kinds of ability checks and use their abilities, detect magic, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Along the way, we'll find the answer together. Is what I have found with a lot of these, is like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Also, sometimes it's just like thinking silly stuff outside the box. I think for the modify memory surgery, because we did it as like a brain surgery kind of thing. You had to
Okay.
get into, oh God, what is the part of the brain that does the memory? I can't. Oh God, I had this last time.
Hippocampus?
Yes, the hippocampus. Um, in the hippocampus, they had to get the brain separated so that they could get to the hippocampus. Then they had to plug electrodes into the hippocampus, plug those electrodes into a potato. Then as electricity from the impulses of the hippocampus fire down the electrodes into the potato cooks using the power of brain networks. That baked potato is then eaten by the neurosurgeon and the resident overseeing the surgery. When they take a bite of this hippocampus laced baked potato, they enter the memories of the patient. And that's how I did it.
Wow.
Because have you ever seen that dumb TikTok science experiment when somebody plugs like a potato into a like phone charger or like a like a light bulb and it lights up? Mm-hmm. That was literally, this is how my brain works as a DM when I'm like under fire, is literally me going, okay, hippocampus, hook into that. And my brain went, hooking into potato. Get the potato, get the memories. Done. Magic. And that it made sense in the moment. It felt good. And I'll tell you what, those players are going to remember the moment that they ate a baked potato and got somebody else's memories.
Why would the patient not eat the potato?
Oh, interesting. Because the patient had permanently lost those memories, eating the potato would potentially put them into a state of psychosis where they wouldn't be able to recognize reality from fiction. It would have been an Inception kind of moment, is how I described it.
Gotcha. So what? Okay,
because it did come up.
As long as it came,
it genuinely came up, Taylor, and I did address it in the moment in a way that sort of felt quasi science magic, where I was like, "Yeah,
Inception.
Well, obviously can't eat it. Obviously, patient can't eat it. Inception will happen to him."
Right.
I spit a top.
And then walk away, camera cut. Yeah. I know, but that's really fun.
Yeah, it was a blast. It was really, really silly and fun. We've done a lot of really interesting ones. I had sometimes like patients come in because they had just like straight up normal injuries and it's just something quick that they need to figure out. But it's been really interesting to try and allow the players to think a little bit more creatively about how to go about solving these medical issues, because the inclination is normally to just be like, cast cure wounds, cast lesser restoration, cast greater restoration. But we're having a lot of fun with the players understanding. This is a little bit of like a meta discussion, like above board, but like the players are having a good time, like sitting in the scene a little bit more and being like, rather than me just blow my 5th level spell, let's talk to the patient a little bit. How are you feeling? Tell me your symptoms. As opposed to just going in willy-nilly and just being like, 5th level spell. Because that's ridiculous. Because you only have so many slots throughout the day. You're going to use your best spell on somebody that could just have a cold.
Right.
It's actually a waste of resources. It's actually a little embarrassing. A little unprofessional, doctor. And so it's been a ton of fun, because then you get to ask the questions of like their family members who are in the waiting room. Hey, what can you tell us about how long has he been acting this way? Is there anything at home that's changed? And you get to those kind of
medical
questions.
History
it's so
questions.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yes. It's been really, really fun and interesting. Then we get to sort of invent like magical tests. So when someone casts, detect magic, it's like the ultrasound kind of test where they're checking things and they're doing x-rays and CAT scans and all these different exams to figure out some more information. And so I've been really like, what's the word? More conservative about how much information I give, because I know that they're going to ask for tests.
Right.
So it's like, hey, I cast detect magic and I'm still only giving them a little bit.
Right.
I'll be like, yeah, you're picking up a little bit of necromantic vibes, but that's kind of it. without more tests, you're not really going to know. And then boom, okay, well, let's go make some more tests. Okay, now you're feeling a little bit, this kind of feels like this person is getting weaker and weaker from the inside. Like that necromancy is coming from with like their chest region. Okay, well, let's get an x-ray gun. And then it just boom, boom, progresses from there until we get all the information. And now we know what to do. It's been really, really interesting. I've also found some interesting ways to work diseases and curses into combat scenes. You know, the curse is making the person lash out. The disease is making the person lash out. Or, you know, in D&D, I think in Volo's guide, they mention one of the ways that hags reproduce is that they will like steal children. They'll like steal a child from a village and then replace that child with an identical child that when they turn 12 years old will turn into a hag. So it's like a sleeper cell. Now, I had this story set out where this little girl comes in, she's not feeling well, she turns 12 later that afternoon. So she's about to turn, she's a ticking time bomb. She's about to turn into a hag. Now, in my head, I'm like, there's the combat. She turns into the hag, we fight the hag, there's the combat. But as the players were playing and they're starting to talk to this character and all this stuff, you start to feel bad. Start to feel pretty bad. And you're like, dang. And so it becomes pretty apparent that the players are catching on to what's about to happen. And so they decide that what they're going to do is, one of the characters asked me, can I upcast detect thoughts? Like I'll burn a 6th level, 5th level spell slot, cast detect thoughts. Can I put myself, the other PCs, and the little girl, and maybe this hag that she's turning into a like mind palace so that we're not in the middle of the hospital? That way, if things go to blows, other patients aren't getting hit. And I was like, hell yeah, that's fine with me.
That's rad.
Like burn a higher level spell slot just to kind of take it out of the hospital. Like that's kind of perfect. That's, you know, and this was the head of psychiatry speaking. So it was like, and it makes a ton of sense. So perfect.
You're
the flavoring of the spell
style character.
Yeah. So it was perfect. And then so what they ended up doing was they ended up defeating the hag, like mentally defeating the hag that the little girl was turning into, so that she would just be the little girl that she always was meant to be. And the hag was defeated. And it was really cool. It was sick.
But that's not the original little girl that was taken. That little girl probably is eaten now.
I think if you go by the original lore of how hags work, yes.
Yeah.
But the way that it worked out in this scenario was that now that little girl doesn't turn into a hag and she just stays a little girl.
Okay.
And that's the part that is good. And we focus on that
Fair
part.
enough.
Yeah. And yeah, Lucy is A-okay. And that's what was important.
It's good. Yeah, good.
It is good. It is good. So there's all kinds of cool things that you can add into your games. I think it's an interesting thing just to add some layers to stuff. It's an easy layer to add to a combat. Oh, I want to make combat more dynamic. Okay. Add in a monster that has a curse. Add in a monster that has a disease. That's an easy little tiny layer, because 9 times out of 10, when a player gets a curse or a disease, it's like you failed the con save. Hey, after this fight, we're going to talk about this, because usually they're not like instantaneous effects.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I like it. It doesn't add too much to the combat from the DM's perspective. Just another saving throw when they bite you or whatever. But like, you don't have to do a ton. Like when there's like a puzzle and moving parts and a million NPCs, that adds a lot to the DM. But having a monster that has a curse or a disease like sight rot or something doesn't add that much, I don't think. It's just like a fun way to add an extra layer. There's all different kinds of inspiration out there, gang. So come out with your own magical curses, contagions, and stuff like that. And remember, This episode is brought to you by Big Tap. Thank you so much, Big Tap.
Okay, no, that's all we can get into this time. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram at So You Want to Be a DM, or you can ask us a question at SoYouWantToBeADM@gmail.com. If you like the episode, don't forget to give us 5 stars and a review wherever you found us, and check out the Patreon, the Twitch, and our merch with the link in the description. Join us next time for more Dungeon Master tips and tricks.
Bye.
And now, I have the honor of giving a shout out to the members of our Patreon gang. Numuffins, may Palor's light shine upon you. Marsavies, have you watered your flesh prison lately? And then there's Elijah, Molly, Tappy, and Linguini. Gang, we appreciate and love you. Tune in next time for more tips and tricks from So You Want to Be a DM.